don't know if we have viewer video ready to go, but we did show folks about 30 minutes ago, one viewer sending us in his cell phone video from Walmart, the Walmart parking lot. There's a super center that's right next to where this pipeline fire initiated. And he said, hey, I was shopping in Walmart, wasn't the wiser, came out. And you could see that active flame as we take another live look here from that active flame. This started, Andy, just before 10 o'clock this morning, and we are still waiting for this fuel source to be shut off. And we've been talking with an oil and gas expert throughout the morning, early afternoon now, to give us some insights as to what he thinks might be going on.
Yeah, we've been leaning very heavy on Bob Cavnar, who is back with us once again. Bob, can you hear us?
I'm with you. Thank you.
Okay, the flame looks different from what we saw earlier. It could be maybe something with the camera, I don't know, but it looks different. It's almost like yellow, like a yellow, fluorescent yellow. The hue has changed.
I'm having a hard time seeing the feed, but does it look like the flame is reducing from where it was?
It looks about the same.
The height looks about the same. It just looks like that the tint of the flame has changed a little bit. Would that be indicative of anything to you?
Well, oftentimes the characteristics of the flame will change as pressure changes. So if the pressure is coming down, then that could cause some changes in the color of the flame. And in fact, I'm seeing, here we go. I'm not sure if, this is live. Yeah, it is really a lot yellow now. But that could indicate that the pressure of the pipeline is changing, which means it may be coming down. I was looking at this area on Google Maps and from Street View, and I noticed there's like 3 pipeline substations in that area. And one was a gas pipeline, and one I couldn't tell. And there were some warning signs for buried cables and the power line itself. So if it's a gas line, then I'll be surprised if there's that much smoke coming from a gas line. But if it is a gas line, if the color of the flame is changing, that tells me that the pressure in the pipeline is changing, which may mean it's coming down. I'd like to see that flame reduced, though, for sure.
So it could be an encouraging sign. Earlier you mentioned it's very, very hot. Can you give us a temperature range in terms of how hot that fire is burning?
Oh, over 1,000 degrees. I mean, it's brutally hot. I can't recall the physics of gas fire in terms of the actual temperature, but it's going to be 1,200 degrees minimum for something like this. So it's super hot, and you're going to feel it for thousands of feet around that fire.
We can see fire crews scattered throughout that one residential area back behind where this flame is burning, and they're doing incredible work and have been getting water, on these homes just as a proactive measure, Andy. It doesn't appear like anything has caught fire, thank goodness, but you see those trucks strewn about in that area and ladders getting water on roofs. Bob, we talked about the probability here of this flame being alive for a certain amount of time here. We really don't know how long this might go, correct?
Right, and we haven't identified who the company is yet either, have we?
And in terms of you talked a lot about the valve and a shutoff. Where exactly would be the physical location for this valve?
Well, these manifolds that are above ground here, those have valves on them. But obviously they can't close those valves because they're right there. They have to go to the next substation, which could be a mile, 2 miles. It depends on how close the substations are together. But in interstate pipelines, they're farther apart. In industrialized areas like this, they tend to be closer together. Sometimes they're remotely controlled, where the control center can actually open and close valves remotely. And sometimes you have to actually go physically close the valve, have a person go out and actually turn the valve to close it. I'm not sure what this situation is. These look like automatic valves in the photographs that I'm looking at, but I don't. This is clearly not live. It's just off of the internet.
And Bob, we'll have you.
Orange smoke. That orange smoke looks like it could be a gas fire, because That's interesting. I'm looking at a picture right now. The characteristic of the flame has changed. Now, it could be also what happens is these fires continue to burn. The hole in the pipeline will get larger, and that could change the characteristic of the flame also. And that may be what's going on. It looks like it's larger at ground level, which tells me that that hole is expanding in the pipeline.
Bob, stand by. We appreciate those insights. Stand by with us as we get to our Robert Arnold, who's live in the newsroom right now with what he's hearing about the response here in Deer Park. Robert?
Yeah, the Texas Railroad Commission, which oversees the oil and gas industry in Texas, is sending investigators to this pipeline explosion to start that work. One, we need to figure out who owns this pipeline right now, and the Railroad Commission should have that answer pretty easily. I remember one of the things that came out of Winter Storm Uri when we had those big failures with the power grid is one of the things that the Railroad Commission was tasked with was coming up with an accurate map of pipelines, like exactly where all the pipelines are, what's in them, who owns them, everything, so we don't have any more problems like we did see with pipelines during that winter storm. So they should be able to get that answer fairly quickly, and depending on who owns it, then figuring out how that can be shut down. That's going to be job number one. We're also going to be hearing from the pipeline, the Federal Pipeline Agency, which oversees the pipeline industry, and that's going to be a division of the Department of Transportation. They're going to have investigators looking into this as well. Both of these agencies, state and federal, are going to have inspection reports. They're going to look at who owns this, when was the last time it was inspected, whether there was any damage to this line at any place. And so once they get boots on the ground, we should start getting some of that information coming in. But we do know right now that the Railroad Commission does have investigators en route to this pipeline explosion.
County Pollution Control is on the scene there monitoring the air quality. I would suspect that the TCEQ would send out air monitoring equipment as well, Robert?
Of course, yes. They will always do that to find out just how far any potentially noxious gases or any other things are in the air, potentially affecting, especially since you're in that neighborhood. So you'll have these air monitoring stations set up, and TCEQ will be monitoring it until this is over with and for a time afterwards to see if there are any lingering effects. But as far as investigations and ownership and and when this is going to get shut down, that's going to be the Railroad Commission and the Federal Pipeline and Hazardous Materials Safety Administration.
Robert Arnold live in the newsroom. We know you'll continue to work this breaking story throughout the afternoon. We will check back. Again, we are continuing to follow breaking news here just after 12:30. A massive pipeline fire continues to burn. This is in the Deer Park area. Good afternoon. Thanks for staying with us. I'm Lisa Hernandez.
Adam, Andy Sirota, Spencer Highway between Luella and Canada is being evacuated because of this fire. That fire started just before 10 o'clock this morning. Want to get out to our Bill Barajas, who is near that scene. He begins our team coverage. Bill, what are you seeing?
Yeah, we are on Cunningham and Spencer Highway, a little bit closer to Miller, actually, right in front of the San Jacinto College Central Campus. And guys, over the last, I would say 10 minutes, we've seen fire truck after fire truck just sort of buzz by here to try to get down to where that fire is at, a few blocks away. A big response from multiple agencies out here in the LaPorte, Pasadena area as we speak. Now, we are located just outside the San Jacinto College, where they told us there would be a command center. It's more of a media staging area where you see all the reporters, and we're just sort of waiting on information from first responders, from the police departments that are here right now. And again, there are multiple. What we know right now is that firefighters are working to put out those flames that you see from that pipeline, and emergency officials are recommending people leave this area and evacuate. We do not know who the pipeline belongs to or what it may be carrying. Again, details at this point are limited, so it's unclear what caused the fire, but the LaPorte Office of Emergency Management says major evacuations have been ordered for Spencer Highway, Fairmont Parkway between Luella and Canada Road, the Brooklyn neighborhood area. That's all what we passed on the way to get here. I can tell you when we were on Fairmont Parkway that traffic was bogged down. It was bumper to bumper as folks were trying to figure out what streets were closed and how best to navigate their way out of this area so that they can allow emergency responders to continue doing their job and to work and put out these flames. Again, so far what we've seen from our vantage point is emergency responders from multiple agencies rushing to the scene. They seem to sort of have a handle on this as far as where they're going and what they're doing. The fire, though, has not seemed, it's still raging on. It doesn't seem to have gotten any better in the, I would say, 30 minutes, 40 minutes that we have been here. So a lot of work still left to be done as firefighters and emergency responders try to figure out what caused this and how to put it out right now. So a lot of questions unanswered. We're in that media staging area where we're waiting for answers from officials. One bright spot, as we talked earlier, right when we showed up, there was a woman who lives in the East Meadows neighborhood. We were told that Pasadena police were watching some news channel, and they saw that her home was about 100 yards away, so they decided to look that home up and actually go to it. They kicked down the back door and found that her dog Baxter was in the house. They were able to rescue that young dog, and then through their system figure out who owned the home, call her, tell her that they had her dog Baxter and that they wanted to reunite them. So she met them here on the campus, San Jacinto campus, and she was visibly grateful and happy, on the verge of tears, I would say, that she had her dog back. I asked her briefly just if she knew what kind of condition her home was in, since it was about 100 yards away. She said no, she had no idea what was going on. She was at work. And so she was just extremely grateful and thankful that Pasadena police, the department there, going above and beyond and actually going to her house to check just to make sure that there was nobody inside the home, because they could see, from what I was told by one of the officers who said he could not go on camera, he was able to tell me that we saw what was going on and we just wanted to make sure that everybody was okay. We knew that there was damage to the home. We didn't know how bad it was, so we decided to go check it out ourselves. And sure enough, it resulted in a woman and her dog being reunited, a dog safe, a family member for so many people. So a bright spot in all this, as emergency responders still have a lot of work to do out here in this area. Andy, Lisa?
Certainly is a bright spot to hear the good news there. And
it makes you think of all the homeowners who are still wondering about maybe pets at their home, or did loved ones make it out. And I know firefighters are going house to house to see what they can determine, see if there's any activity inside. But thank you, Bill Barajas. It is that one bright spot this afternoon, that dog being saved.
Yes, it is. Yeah. All right, want to go to meteorologist Brittany Begley, who's been monitoring the weather conditions. Brittany, doesn't look like the wind is a big issue today out there.
Thank goodness. I mean, we're still tracking 5 miles per hour consistently. That's the good news. I know over the weekend we had those gustier conditions, but looking at it, you can see it right here. This is going to be Beltway 8 at Spencer South. So you can see just those flames billowing, and it's been that way for the past couple of hours. So big picture, what we'll continue to really watch and track is just going to be those conditions in that area. We're starting to slowly see some smoke, but really it's the LaPorte area and those temperatures that we're watching. Again, we're at 4 miles per hour, so thankfully it's not too gusty. That's the good news, but those temperatures are definitely warmer. So right now we're at 88, but it definitely feels warmer than that. That humidity went down just a little bit since the last time we were on TV, but still it's going to feel like we're in the 90s. So we have those warmer temperatures. We haven't really had rain since last week, so it's actually really dry. And then those temperatures of 5 miles per hour, those gustier conditions. But taking a look right here, that feels like, you can see we're still feeling like triple digits, especially in that area. So we have that heat, we have that humidity. And if you are staying indoors, if you have that shelter in place safety, we just want to remind you to turn off your AC, to shelter in a room that doesn't have windows if that's a possibility. Make sure to seal those gaps underneath that door with those towels. Bring your pets inside. I know we were just showing you that lady with her pet just being so grateful to be back with her pet, and then wait for authorities to give you all the information to come back inside. But still, I mean, we've been watching this again for the past couple of hours, and we just haven't been able to get a break, especially again with those feels like temperatures already in those triple digits. The good news again is that we're not dealing with gustier conditions. We're still looking at that 5 miles per hour, but really it is those warmer temperatures that we'll continue to watch and track for you. And then I know that a lot of people have been just talking about that traffic issue as well. Of course, with that Spencer Highway, this is the area that we're concerned about, that 8, and then we're watching local traffic in that area with those shelters in place. I know that we tried to call Walmart earlier. Obviously, no one was picking up, but those warmer warmer temperatures still a concern as they try to fight that. Again, 5 miles per hour, that's the good news, but still the bad news is that we just haven't had a chance to get a break in this. No chance in rain to help with that either. It's going to be those warmer temperatures we'll continue to watch. I'm going to go see if I can get another traffic update for you guys and kind of circle out the roadways that are shut down, and I'll bring that up to you coming up in about 20 minutes.
All right, Brittany Begley, meteorologist Brittany Begley, we do appreciate it. Do want to make mention, last check, there were several hundred people without power, according to CenterPoint. I think the number was just over 700.
Right, yeah.
CenterPoint has utility crews on standby. Once the situation is safe, they'll be able to go out there and assess the damage to their lines, their power poles, and hopefully get the lights back on as soon as they can. No word on when that's going to happen,
That's
really.
right, exactly. We do want to go back to our oil and gas expert, Bob Cavnar, who has been providing us with insights throughout the morning and afternoon here on this pipeline fire. Bob, thank you for hanging with us for the duration. You're the expert here. Let's talk about the pipelines in this area in terms of substances and how many. What can you tell us about that?
I've been doing a little bit of just looking online on Street View maps and those kinds of things, and I'm seeing signs for natural gas liquids lines, natural gas pipelines, and petroleum pipelines, as well as buried cable and overhead power systems. It looks like I'm looking at this from the street towards the facility that's on fire, and the sign that I can read there looks like it's an NGL pipeline, which means natural gas liquids. And so, those tend to burn pretty cleanly. That may be why you're seeing that really bright yellow flame, if that's NGL, rather than crude or heavier products. So that could give us some hints as to what the product is. But these are several meter stations, valve stations right here. So it looks like it's an above ground leak, near as I can tell just from the videos compared to what I'm looking at on Street View photographs.
In terms of the company that operates this pipeline, we can only imagine what's taking place behind the scenes right now. Can you kind of walk us through some of the key points and what you suspect is happening right now?
They will have activated their emergency response plan, and they should have done that just almost instantaneously when they sensed when they saw the fire or saw the leak in their monitoring systems. So they would implement their emergency response plan, which includes notifying all the local authorities, the fire department, the emergency management, the Railroad Commission, Texas Environmental Quality. All those agencies should be notified. The thing that concerns me here is that the fire has been going on for so long that tells me that the valves are either malfunctioning or far enough apart to where there's a whole lot of product in that line that has to burn off. I would hope by now that the pipeline has been shut in, that we're burning off residue that's within the pipeline. But with the size of that flame, I'm concerned that it's still being fed. It's not just burning down.
And with those signs present here, Bob, what does that tell you in regard to the duration of this fire? I know we don't know how long this thing could last, but if it's not out by now, I mean, do you have any idea on how long this could burn?
Depending on how long the section is between the shutoff valves, it could be hours before this burns down. The thing that I'm looking for here in the video, though, is for the flame to start to reduce, because as soon as the source of the fire is cut off, that flame should go down relatively quickly. And it'll burn for a long time because there's a lot of residue gas or residue product within the pipeline, but it should begin to reduce and show some signs of lessening. And right now, looking at the video, it looks like it's still going pretty much the way it was earlier this morning when we first began talking.
And we mentioned the different color that we're looking at now as opposed to when this first started. Can you again explain what that might indicate?
The characteristic of the flame will change depending on the pressure and the size of the hole that it's coming through. And the thing about these pipeline leaks, when you have something burning like this, what will happen is that as that leak continues, it'll actually degrade the hole that the pipeline that is in the pipeline, and it'll get bigger. And as the hole gets bigger, then the characteristic of the flame changes. And so the difference in color The difference in width of the flame, it's a factor. Two factors. One is pressure, and the other is size of the orifice or size of the hole that it's coming through. It all changes the way the flame looks. This still looks pretty active. It's still, I'm looking at it compared to the power towers that are alongside it, and it's, that's a 50, 60 foot flame at least, which that's a lot of product still coming up, which tells me there's still a whole lot of pressure there. That could be native pipeline pressure that hasn't been reduced yet. And I'm hoping to see this come down at some point where it'll tell us that the flame is starting to finally reduce because pressure's coming down.
Yeah, and you've got firefighters working fast and furiously in a neighborhood just adjacent to where that fire is burning. And Bob, it does appear that one of the homes did indeed catch fire.
Yeah, these structures, especially houses with asphalt shingles and wooden framing, once they've reached a certain temperature, they will ignite, whether there's a flame on it or not. And that's the challenge, obviously, in the wildfires in California. You see that all the time, where the houses just spontaneously catch on fire just because of the heat from the fire. And that's probably what you're seeing here. You're seeing these houses begin to smoke. The structures, I see one that the roof is already on fire. Mm-hmm. That's just from the intense heat from that flame at the pipeline site.
Yeah, well, you had mentioned that the temperature could be as high as 1,200 degrees.
Yeah, it could be well over 1,000 degrees, depending on how the pressure and the volume of the flame. But it does burn at a very high temperature. And you can see that the car that was next to this pipeline facility is just about melted because it's sitting next to that flame. And you see that at the base of the flame, it's getting wider. And that also tells me that the hole's getting larger in the pipeline.
Your heart breaks for folks who left for work this morning, a typical Monday, heading off. And this happened just before 10 a.m. And so now people are realizing if they're in this particular neighborhood, how close they are to that flame, and will their property be okay? Yeah. And we don't know how long this will be burning. Bob, we talked about the necessity of folks to heed instruction from local first responders, different departments of emergency management. They're telling you to get out. You need to get out, even if you don't smell anything in the air, even if if your proximity isn't that close, you need to heed those warnings.
Exactly. This kind of incident is nothing to take lightly. You have to really take it seriously, get away from it, follow instructions from the local emergency management agency, and they'll tell you when it's safe to come back. But right now, I would say it's not safe to come even anywhere close to this fire until they figure out if they have it under control, what the product is, and how long it's going to be burning.
You mentioned that the hole where the fire is coming out, it appears to be getting bigger. What does that tell you? What does that mean in the long term? Are we going to see potential problems somewhere else within this line? Is that a possibility?
Likely not, because think about this. When you have a hole like this in a pipeline, the pressure in the entire system goes down, because these pipelines will operate at 900 pounds, something like that. Typically, it's got kind of pipeline pressure somewhere 1,000 to 800 pounds. And so when you have a leak, that pressure goes down. And so it's going to decrease the stress on the rest of the system because the pressure's lower. But where the leak is, that will continue to degrade because you've got product going through steel, and it'll cut steel just, like a welding torch. This is basically what this is, cutting steel, because you've got a high temperature flame melting the pipeline itself. And so the hole will get larger. It reduces the pressure, which is good, but you've got to cut off the source of the fuel. This will keep burning as long as there's fuel being fed to it.
Yeah, so the big question is, how long is it going to take to shut down that valve, to turn it off, and where exactly is that valve? I mean, Bob, a lot of unknowns at this point.
Yeah, I'm really concerned that the flame has continued to burn at the same rate that we saw it over an hour ago. And so that tells me there's something mechanically going on in the system that could be preventing them from shutting this in. And if that's the case, that's a pretty serious problem. So I'm hoping this is just a long pipeline run. They've got it shut in. It's just going to burn down. But I sure would like to see that flame start to come down.
When you say that's a pretty serious problem, what does it mean? What are the implications for this particular neighborhood?
Well, you get high temperatures like this. First off, it's putting all that smoke in the air. And so you got an air quality problem no matter what happens. But as long as that intense heat continues, those structures close to it they're going to continue to burn. And it's going to get, and as those houses catch on fire, it's a risk that the other houses will catch on fire too. So the fire department is doing the right thing by continuing to pour water on those houses to reduce that chance. But the temperature continues to rise as this flame continues to burn.
And we see more fire trucks across the street now putting fire on adjacent homes, not just these properties right next to the flames, but across the street, diagonal. You see trucks in that neighborhood now putting water on to further boost what you're saying here, Bob, about the danger with these hot temperatures and what that means for neighboring structures.
And certainly because that fire is burning so hot. As close as the firefighters are now, and they're fairly close across the street, they can't get any closer.
Yeah, they've got clothes that help protect them, but they can't get much closer to where they are because of the heat is so intense that it's not safe for the firefighters. The thing we don't want to do is risk anybody else's life here. So they're having to approach this as best they can, as close as they can. It's still safe for them. So it's important we protect the firefighters as much as anybody else.
Certainly, and in situations like this, I mean, they could be wearing gear that weighs upwards of 50, 75 pounds.
Heat out today.
And as hot as it is out today. All right, Bob Cavnar, we cannot thank you enough, sir, for your expertise on guiding us through this situation.